big picture at the whole preseason, and then we'll go from there. The major takeaway from the preseason for me, I'd love to know what it is for you, but for me, this team isn't good. Like, they have good players, but the team, it's like the have and have-nots on this team. There is no middle class, and I think we saw that in the preseason. You have 8 players making hella money. 8 players who are multi-millionaires, and a bunch of guys making close to minimum wage. That's the team. And that's not how the Niners were built in the past. In the past, when they were really good, they always had a middle class of players. Dre Greenlaw, Trevarius Ward, Jimmy Ward, anyone named Ward, Samson Ebukam, Azeez Al-Shaair, Tashawn Gibson. These like vets who are good, but not stars. The Niners had a lot of them. Robbie Gould was one of them. Now they don't. Who is that middle class of players on this team? It's the 8 stars, Kittle, Trent, Brock, Ayuk, McCaffrey, Bosa, Lenore, Warner. Those 8 guys. And then after that, who's the middle class? Colton Kivitz, Jake Brendel, Bryce Huff. I mean, they don't have they don't have any. And I think what happened is last year they did have a middle class of players, a lot of vets. Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, Devondre Campbell, some of them better than others. And I think that's the kind of players that coaches want. That's the kind of players that front office people want. But this year feels like the return of the bean counters, the revenge of the bean counters. We know that the bean counters weren't happy about the Brandon Ayuk extension last year. They were holding their nose. They were adamantly against it, while Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch overruled, or Kyle Shanahan in particular. And I think the days of Kyle Shanahan pushing to sign anyone are over, and you got bean counters making football decisions. And I think what we're seeing is a Moneyball situation. The bean counter saying, we got these great coaches. What's the problem? Why don't we just bring in a bunch of rookies? They can coach them up. We don't got to spend $8 million on the starter. We can spend $1 million and it'll be just as good. Sure. But I think one of the byproducts of that Moneyball tactic this offseason is these young guys are getting hurt. You didn't want Dre Greenlaw because he's injury prone. So you replace him with a bunch of young guys, Trevarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga, a bunch of young guys who haven't proven anything. You don't know if they can stay healthy. You don't know what they can do. So Talanoa Hufanga, he's gone because he was a little too expensive. And you replaced him with Jair Brown because he's cheaper. You replaced him with Marquise Siegel, who's made some nice tackles, but he got burned in coverage tonight. Like, we don't know anything about Marquise Siegel. You gave up the core middle class of your team for a bunch of question marks. Brian Robinson Jr. might be good. He's in that middle class. Sky Moore isn't. Robbie Chosen isn't. These are what you call scrubs. The Niners have a bunch of scrubs because the bean counters don't want to spend. My heart goes out to the coaches a little bit. On the other hand, the bean counters opened up the purses big time last year, and it didn't work out. So I don't think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are really in a position to complain or say that if they had more of a budget, they would be better, because they've really spent money poorly in the past. But I think that's the major takeaway of this team. It's not just lacking depth. That's not specific enough. It's lacking that middle class and I think good teams have it. The Niners used to have it. The Denver Broncos have one right now with Greenlaw and Hufanga. And when you pay $53 million a year for a quarterback, when you pay $34 million a year for a defensive end, $29 million a year for an offensive tackle, $30 million a year for a wide receiver, you just probably made the bargain that you're not going to have a middle class anymore. You have the haves and have-nots bunch of 8 rich people surrounded by a bunch of people who don't make that much money. I don't think that's the recipe for a Super Bowl, and I think they know it. Poop Saget says Jimmy Ward, man. I know. I hope that's just not real. I don't even want to talk about it. Killamig says Garendo and Moody proved they're trash tonight. Yeah, can we get one Garendo for each fumble in practice? Nah, man. I'll give you one for that 199 though. Garendo. That might be the last Garendo of all time. I feel bad. The wide receiver room is as depleted as the running back room. Parlaying Scary Terry with Robinson would have been perfect. Do you think the Niners get Brock some real help before the season starts? Well, you sent this a minute ago, but my whole take is that they're going Moneyball this year. These are the Moneyball Niners. And like, to me, it seems like they're essentially tanking, but they don't want people to know because they want people to come to Levi's and spend money. So they spent money on their own players, but they, added on a bunch of scrubs. And some teams have the guts to just gut their team and start over. And for some reason in the Bay Area, teams don't do that. They do the 2 timeline thing. The Giants did it, the Warriors did it, and the Niners are doing it. They want to reload, but they're afraid of having an empty stadium. So come out and see Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa and the gang. The core is still here. The core is still here. It's just that the rest of the team is no good, and they might not win very many games this year. But if you want to see the crew, the gang, you can come check it out. Have a great time. Isn't that kind of what the Giants are? They need to gut it, rebuild, but they won't because they're afraid of Oracle Park being a ghost town for a year or two. The Warriors need to rebuild, but they won't because they're afraid of Chase Arena being empty. So if you guys have if you guys have season tickets, you're in luck. The stars are still here.